look at what the other nations are doing. They are moving back into nuclear in some instances.
As they should.
Right?
Yep.
So that's what's actually happening in Europe, because they're just going, we can't be dependent on another nation to send us this gas. We can't be dependent on to receive their oil, especially when there's sanctions going on. So they've had to go back to the old fossil fuels and abandon the European Union's green policies. And just go,
these aren't green policies. These are policies about making money. I love the environment. I'm a person who wants to make the environment the best quality it can be. I also believe in the pub test, and nothing that is being sold about this clean energy and electric cars and this, that, and da-da-da-da, nothing passes the pub test.
So we've had, I woke up yesterday morning to the news of what's going on in Israel. It was a bit of a shock to see that. And also how quickly those pictures were coming across. They were just flying in.
Yep.
But I guess that's social media these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was with the attack with Hamas and criticisms as to which leader and prime minister should have said what, when, how soon, and all this sort of stuff. I look at it from an economic perspective and go, what's that impact going to be? And a lot of economists are talking about the price of oil. What's that going to do to the price of oil?
I don't know. There's no oil in that part of the world. So what are you talking about?
So
I just got the sarcasm, but anyway.
There's also the speculation as to, let's focus on oil, and then I'll dive into the later. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So there are some economists saying the price of oil will go up. It's jumped about 4 or 5% since the news broke out.
Okay.
And will it continue? Well, it's questionable. It depends on how long this conflict will go for, whether it's just something that dies down in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or if it's long, drawn out. That will be there. But you've also got to remember that the price of oil is being manipulated lately with the combination of supplying cuts from OPEC, which is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, and its allies. You also so they have reduced production of oil, and that was happening prior to, of course, this attack. China's been recovering from pandemic lockdowns as well, which means that, hey, we need to get moving again. They're burning up more fuel. And the US economy has been basically robust consumer spending has fueled about 40% surge in crude prices since late June. So those kind of factors play into the price of oil as well. Why is that a big deal? Well, a lot of people are feeling the pinch at the pump.
Well, I was going to say, actually, I'm seeing there's a bit of a gap between what's going on at the pump and what's happening at the price of oil too. Because, and I'm sorry I haven't got the exact figures right, coming straight to mind, but the reality is oil right now is cheaper, right, than it was before.
It's a flow-on effect.
Yeah, but hang on. Why are we still paying so much at the bowser? There seems to be a disconnect there. To be honest with you, I think it's
ours is easy. It's the government taxes. That's why our oil is so
expensive.
Hang on,
because of course, we've still got the tariffs on there now, right? Okay, and the tariff relief has stopped. So
a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was only for 6 months. Yeah. But the stupid thing is, we have a surplus in the budget. I think it was $22 billion.
Right.
To just flat out remove all taxes on fuel, full stop for everyone. I think they were quoting something like $6 billion.
Okay.
And that's immediate relief for every single person in Australia. So whether you're a small business, big businesses, major business, well, most major businesses don't pay that tariff anyway because they get exemptions. But that would help every single person in Australia, getting to work, driving around, going on holidays.
Well,
it would just help everything.
That's incredibly true, but it's not even just about getting to work and that. The reality is you take pressure off fuel prices, oil prices, and you're taking the price of goods down because transport is such a big part of the pricing here in Australia.
The other side of that, though, is interest rates.
The
cost of borrowing is up higher in terms of inflation. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. But you've also got to remember the thing that the Australian government doesn't control is that Saudi Arabia and Russia cut 1,300,000 barrels per day production back in June, respectively. And Saudi Arabia also cut through to December in terms of what it was producing as well. So those extensions have gone on.
Sure.
So that's outside of any government's control as far as what happens in the Middle East and Europe, etc.
But again, okay, the tariffs are a mechanism where they can control that.
Oh,
and they can stimulate the economy, and they choose not to.
There's lots of things that the Australian government can do to actually push it down even further. You know, off the Great Australian Bight, we have massive oil fields.
Yes.
Like, we have so much oil and gas in and around Australia. We don't need to import it. We just need to mine our own and to produce it ourselves. Then we export it.
Okay,
the surplus.
Let's talk about natural gas, right? Okay, we've got right now a state which we're going to be closing down our natural gas industry effectively, because in so many ways, because they're going to stop us from actually putting it in our homes. It happened in Victoria.
We won't even be able to explore for it. I don't know if Sky News did a really good coverage of it.
No, I didn't see it.
So they I think it was Rio Tinto. I'll have to double check that one.
Okay.
Was doing offshore exploration. That's where they drill a hole, they check the gas and see how good it is, and they move on. They is this gas worthwhile mining?
Sure.
180 kilometers offshore. But some lady, a single woman, said, "Oh no, that's not interfere with the whale songs."
Really?
And so they had to stop all the exploration.
The whale songs.
Yeah, the whale songs. Because they never consulted this woman who wasn't a part of any of the Aboriginal groups. So all the Aboriginal groups they checked with, they said, yeah, no, go for it.
Okay.
Thanks for the money, go for it.
Yeah, of course.
But this one lady who wasn't consulted took it to the High Court and won. And the High Court ruled that, oh no, we've got to protect the whale songs.
The whale song.
Which she can hear from land.
Oh my word. Okay.
And that's not the first time it's happened. This is the third time now something like this has happened offshore.
But this is ridiculous, right? I remember a few years ago they were telling us, "Let's get your gas appliances in your house. Go. Spend the money. Spend. It's funny how government wants
Gil
to do
Bates.
that. Oh, good old Gil. He's on the money. Trust me. No, but they were telling us, spend the money, change what you've got in your house. Okay, I'm on a property, so quite frankly, if I want gas, it's got to be bottles, and it's a big infrastructure kind of change, right? Or if you're building a new home, you spend the money on having nice gas appliances, yada yada yada. Everybody did it, and now, oh no, let's push everything back onto the power grid. Let's take away the gas. And I know I'm talking about gas when we're talking about oil here, but look, energy is energy, right? And we're talking about the fact that we should be energy independent. There is no reason why we are not independent.
Here's the interesting observation, case study. Last year we were talking about winter is coming for Europe, just when the Ukraine-Russian war was going on, right? And what are they going to do to warm their homes? Well, they had to fire up the old energy stations in Germany, and that they had to get back on the coal. They had to get nuclear energy going on. The whole green initiative was abandoned because otherwise people are going to die. Let's face it, right?
The other thing is, even if they do ban gas in Australia, there's these really cool, I don't know what you call them, black bag things, and you fill the bottom of them up with water. You get all your kitchen scraps and you throw them into the top and then chuck a heap of poop into it, like chicken poo, cow poo, whatever. And it generates a heap of methane that you can just pump back into your gas lines to power all your gas appliances.
Okay.
So you can actually get yourself totally off grid when it comes to gas.
I remember.
Because the household doesn't actually use that much gas.
About roughly 15 years ago, okay, there was a big push, and we're getting rebates from left, right, and centre, right, to turn our cars to LPG.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And I did, okay? And I remember having the conversation with my kids and saying, we're doing this because, yes, it's going to save us money, but the much lower emissions, it's much better for the environment, yada, yada, yada. I sold it to them. I was trying to teach my kids about being responsible, right?
Yep.
Okay, and here's how bad the scheme, or good the scheme was great for me, but I tell you what, it makes me look at government investment schemes and infrastructure in so many different ways, because the scheme actually, I made a profit. I made money out of putting my car onto gas. Ridiculous. Now I currently have a gas car. One of my cars is gas.
Do you actually use gas though?
Oh, I can't
Considering
afford it,
that it's nearly expensive as fuel in the
how much is it a litre now?
Oh, it's about 138 a litre kind of thing. Now, strangely, before the Woo Flu arrived, I was paying typically, the most I was paying for gas was 89 cents a litre, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about a massive jump.
How many kilometres would you get off that?
Oh, in my patrol?
Yeah.
I'll plead the fifth on this one. Look, if you own a Nissan Patrol, understand that you also need to own shares in BP to run the thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's the same as my Forester. It was running out 16 litres per 100 Ks.
That's exceptional. Anyway,
exceptionally bad.
My point.
Even the Hilux isn't that bad.
Oh dear. My point being is, okay, not that long ago, they're pushing very hard for us to have all these used gas. Okay, Now they're pushing us all into electric. Okay.
Yep.
When our grid can't cope with electric, what are we going to do? What about when we're living in all those living
really want me to start
in a high rise with extension cords running out around the trees, whatever? It looks like downtown Bangkok
or
right?
Vietnam.
Yes.
Look at what the other nations are doing. They are moving back into nuclear in some instances,
as they should.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what's actually happening in Europe, because they're just going, we can't be dependent on another nation to send us this gas. We can't be dependent on to receive their oil, especially when there's sanctions going on. So they've had to go back to the old fossil fuels and abandon the European Union's green policies and just go.
These aren't green policies. These are policies about making money. I love the environment. I'm a person who wants to make the environment the best quality it can be. I also believe in the pub test, and nothing that is being sold about this clean energy and electric cars and this, that, and nothing passes the pub test.
Yep.
This is nothing but, you go all the way back to, and before Al Gore, I was going to say use him as a barometer. No, it's before that. You know what? I've lived through nuclear winters. I've lived through acid rain. I've lived through, oh, come on.
The next ice age was the one that I remember, like, as I was a kid coming up, because I was born 83.
Yep.
So I think it was in the 80s. They were like, oh, ice age.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Remember the ozone layer? We all had to get different deodorant.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
You had to change the air conditioning in your car.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Had to get regas with the new gas.
That's right.
Now,
this is all
is that the
way.
premium gas? The premium air?
Premium air?
When you get your car service and they've got to put the premium air in your car tyres?
Oh, that's not even a joke, You know that you buy nitrogen for your tyres now?
Why?
You don't know that?
No.
Oh, no, this is
Just
one of
put
the
air in
latest schemes is, yeah. You
What, to make the car lighter?
Well, no. What it is, okay, we're going to do...
Isn't it explosive?
No. Hang on,
No,
no.
what it
Before that, but we'll talk about the pub test. So effectively, we are the pub test at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
So we have comments, and I have to
Yeah, good
say,
point.
these guys are coming in thick and fast. So last time I was in the 90s with Israel, all went through the roof. Oil went through the roof. Sorry, it's just because I'm in a different seat. The screen's a different angle. Okay, Bill Gates talking about performance cars, like talking about how expensive fuel is.
Yep.
I'm assuming he has a nice car.
He has a cool car. He has a cool car.
We were running out of power this summer. That's coming from Damien again. Welcome to the show again.
Damien.
And the one and the only Josh McCurry. Welcome back to the stream. That's worse than the Liberty. Yes, so I think he's talking about the Subaru Liberty. By the way, my Forester, we're doing helicopters in the paddock, and so I think I shredded out the rear bearings in the all-wheel drive system. So we actually pulled the solenoid, so it was only a front-wheel drive Forester.
I remember this.
So, yeah.
We'll digress for a minute, okay? Because environmental terrorists here.
Nitrogen in tires.
Yes, okay. Yes, we'll go with that. Nitrogen in tires, right? So, okay, in motor racing, you use nitrogen in tires often because it basically fluctuates less in temperature, right? So, okay, I'm going to try and not bore everybody. Motor racing is all pretty much the entire racing. Everything is about heat management, right? It's about getting everything in the right window, so that works really well. So you drive a particular way, you spin your wheels a particular way, you slide the car a particular way to bring your tires up to a temperature that you want them, right? So you start them very low, all coming, right? So it's a real skill to it, an art to it. So what they started doing in Nissan GTRs and Porsches and things like that, started running nitrogen because they get far less variance, right? So
the premium air.
The premium air, right? But now here's the problem.
Someone's actually done that. That's hilarious.
Now people are putting it in Taragos, mate. Like I'm telling you right now. So
Derek,
you can
have you got nitrogen air in your Tarago?
Can't say I have, no.
So you
Mr.
can go
13 kids.
You can go to the servo, not the servo. You can go to the tyre place, right? And you can literally stipulate, or they will ask you, would you like premium air? Would you like nitrogen? And I'm told the price is coming down now. It's about $8 each wheel, but not long ago it was $25.
Yeah, tell them to go get nicked.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got Glenn.
It's rubbish. What I'm getting at is all of these things are just a money-making scam.
I love this term, over-tourism.
Over-tourism.
Right.
Yeah, I'm over-tourism.
So I want to talk
weird.
I want to talk about the tourism industry for a moment. You couldn't go on holidays for a while there.
No, I remember that.
And they wouldn't let people come into this place as well.
What is that?
Especially in West Australia, we'd become a sovereign state.
Yeah.
A republic of Western Australia.
I'm an idiot.
So what happens when people get locked up? They want to get out.
Yes.
And that's what's been happening. So around the globe is that people are going, we're going on holidays, we're getting out of there.
Yeah.
You remember the influx of applications for passports.
Oh,
and there was such a backlog to try to get a passport. Well, anyway, now they're worrying many cities in the world are concerned about over-tourism. And they've had, of course, budget airlines, not here in Australia, but elsewhere, come on board. Short-term home rentals, of course, your Airbnbs, cruise ships, they're all mixed into this equation. And you've got, of course, now social and online influencers who want to just rock up at a place. And if you are just doing there to get your selfie, you're in and out of there, right? It's a business tax write-off. And to stay there for any amount of time is costing you money. So a lot of what they're finding with some tourism is a lot of people just come in, take a nice selfie, and get out of there.
Serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what that's what they're finding.
Check my website, getagoddamnlife.com.au. I actually want to talk about this seriously for a moment because we're not seeing this tourism here in Perth. Let me tell you, right? And there's no one who can get an Airbnb because, quite frankly, we've got such a rental crisis that people are living in Airbnbs, right? I know of an Airbnb that, literally, it's just rolling over. People using it for emergency accommodation at whatever price.
But let me put it in perspective, right? So there's the Austrian town of Hallstatt.
Yeah.
Now the rumor is that the castle there was the inspiration for Disney's blockbuster Frozen franchise. Okay. What they do, they have a population of 800 residents, and they have 1 million tourists a year rock up. Okay.
Do you know what? I think they need to relax. I think they just need to let it go. Let it go.
Now they. Well, it's great for the money, but they actually built a wall. No. And this is the funny part. They built a wall. And there was online backlash about it, so the village officials took it down.
Right.
Which is kind of symbolizes what occurred elsewhere.
Yes. Right? Aren't walls racist? Come on.
You got other cities that are doing other things like restricting larger cruise ships from coming.
Right.
One city goes further, Amsterdam. They are fighting over tourism, and they've cracked down on coach buses, tourist shops, new hotel openings, and Airbnb-style home rentals.
Right. Well,
they're also considering banning the cruise ships and moving the red light district out of the city centre of all things.
I'm very glad to hear that Amsterdam has cracked down on crack.
They has crack, a lot of crack in multiple ways.
There you go.
Like people go to Amsterdam for the red light district and drugs.
Right.
Well, they're basically saying
and wooden shoes.
They're saying any young male British tourists to that area, if you're there just to party and do drugs, stay away. That's what they're saying. Okay. Then other cities have done some interesting things, like they're putting in fines and fees, which are just taxes, right? So Venice is fining travellers for consuming drinks or food on the ground, swimming in the canals, or walking around the swimwear, which reminds me of that ad, bathers, undies. Remember that old ad?
Oh, yes, the ice cream ad.
Yes.
Peter's ice cream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Undies,
As
bathers.
the bloke walks away off the beach, it becomes undies and that sort of stuff. Then you've got also the day trippers. If you're just going in for a day, some are just charging to some cities a $5 fee. Indonesia's been interesting. Since 2016, they tried to get people seeing other less known areas of Indonesia.
Sure.
And
not just Bali? Okay.
That's right. And they were calling it the 10 cities of Bali. Now, in 2016, they reduced it back to the 5 cities of Bali. But yeah, it's all these sort of things to try to control people movement around the place and where they're gathering and that sort of thing, and traffic flow or tourist flow, as they want to call it. So it's an interesting phenomenon coming out of COVID that some areas of the world are just going, hey, we're attracting them.
Would you consider that a boom in tourism, or because if it's doing damage, it's a negative thing if they're trying to actually slow it down?
Well, tourists spend money when they're there. So I'm happy for some of these economies like, Indonesia and Bali and that sort of stuff who weren't getting anything. I mean, Bali basically is tourists. And they weren't getting anything for 3, however the lockdowns happened. And so I'm glad that the local people there are probably, hopefully, getting some benefit from that. That's good news from that perspective. But yeah, if it is your homeland and you're not in the industry of tourism, the locals kind of get a bit uppity about that. At least we see that in our part of the world. They start getting a bit protective and want to go into conservation mode, which I can understand and appreciate.
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, tourism's very, very important. Okay, you do need people coming.
It's a
and
good
spending
injection
money.
into the economy.
Absolutely, but
It's
like
money that
anything
wouldn't
in life,
normally come in.
it is balance, right? Like when things become too touristy or too cheesy or whatever, you're best to go somewhere else. I actually quite like that Indonesian idea of getting people to travel.
Well, that's what they do in Vietnam as well. So some of the main ones is obviously Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon.
Yep.
You've got
How'd you pronounce it?
Ho Chi Minh.
No,
Saigon.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's actually Ho Chi Minh. They named it after Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it's not actually Saigon anymore. So a lot of people don't. They keep calling it Saigon. It's like no, it's Ho Chi Minh City. Anyway, so Ha Long Bay, where Luan's from.
Yep.
So everyone goes there because it's got all the water and the weird stone things in the water. So, but there's actually a whole heap of other places. So whenever they come, they also try to promote them to go out to the regional villages and stuff like that, because some of the roads and that are absolutely amazing. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
But what happens is because they're in the villages, they're actually spending the money in the villages, and because it's still a very large cash economy over there. So what's happening is it's not the money being isolated in these few little cities. What's happening is dispersing the funds to other places as well.
Well, shall I get started about my anger about Rally Australia being taken from Perth, 2008? Now I can say with absolute clarity, okay, I saw through all my years of rallying and being involved in the industry, okay, I watched all these beautiful small towns they just prospered so much because, quite frankly, 2 weeks a year there's just all of this money coming in. Now it meant the play equipment for the kids, the schools were getting so much new infrastructure, all that sort of thing. Businesses were able to literally sustain themselves because of the money they would make from that, but because they had these other infrastructure improvements, they were getting more tourism in that, right? Now, since we lost Rally Australia and people are not going down to those little towns like they used to, these towns are disappearing, or they've got you go through. It's really depressing, and I think it's really important that governments focus on these things, not to get people to hear, oh look, we've got a bell tower, oh look, we've got a DNA thing. You know what? Get the hell out of the city. And actually explore a little further afield. Don't just go to bloody Margaret.
No. I'm sorry. I got to be Roscoe here.
Places.
I've got to be Roscoe here.
Right.
So the music. One of our music guys here does 100 Brothers Media.
Yep.
Does like music things.
Yeah.
When was the last time Bridgetown had the Blues and Roots?
Well, it used to do it every single year. Right?
Spot on. And then they stopped doing it. And how many people now go to Bridgetown? So the music festivals, getting the performers over here, getting all those tourist events over to encourage people to come to these things. Like the amount of people that used to swamp down to Bridgetown, how much money did that bring into the local
it's interesting
economy?
you say that, because quite frankly, Bridgetown, Nana, the whole area is sort of not one town, but it's that area, right? So what would happen? We used to have Forest Rally, we'd have Rally Australia, we'd have those things that were focal points that would bring people down there, and the Blues and Roots was another thing. So these events, if you're taking the big ones away,
the little ones don't come.
That's right.
There's no point.
I was in Nana this week. It was interesting. I was in there around about dinner time, and drove down the main street. There was nothing going on except about 3 pubs and restaurants. And they looked like they were full, a couple of them, and that sort of stuff. I didn't stop. I had to be somewhere. I'd stopped on the way through on the other side and grab some coffees and all that sort of stuff. And it was interesting to see who was there. I mean, at the coffee shop, there were migrants from overseas. It was a German serving and a barista, and I can't remember where she was from, somewhere other part of the world. So they've got immigrants coming to those areas.
Yeah,
and I think,
like that idea.
And I like the idea too of how COVID broke out. A lot of people said, let's make a change and go to the country and live there. And so I think our country towns are seeing a different phase. I noticed with Katanning, I was there. I've been a couple of times to Katanning, had contacts there. When they had a lot of African migration come to the nation through the United Nations, a lot of them had to go to Katanning for 2 years. As soon as their time was done there, boom, they were out to the big cities. They left. And
that's
so
where the work was.
And retaining people is a big issue for these country towns.
I know Narragene's got that issue because they had there's something we talked about on Come Fly With You, one of our other shows.
Yeah.
And they had the airport down there, and they still have the airport, but they had Singapore Flying School there, and a real industry based around that. A lot of pilots, or obviously students, lots, for the area. So, these things have to be encouraged.
Busselton's an interesting one because they've built an international airport there now, and they're trying to attract the FIFO workers to live in Busselton and fly out when they've got the stints up north, with a direct flight from Melbourne to Busselton now.
Melbourne.
you can do that. It was interesting driving into. We drove from Albany into Bustleton last week, my wife and I. And it was weird watching a big jet starting to come in for landing right above us. It's not a sight you're used to seeing out there out in the middle of nowhere. So that area,
it's not the middle of nowhere.
Okay, but it's not a site. We were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So we were coming into Bustleton, but we were a number of miles out.
Personally,
and watching that come in over us was just a weird feeling.
Well, that's one thing I think Vietnam did really well. The airport, yes, Vietnam's the size of Victoria, with like 90 million people, but the airport is about an hour and a half out of Hanoi. So getting major infrastructures out of city areas is really good. So this is one of the things that really pissed me off about the Kwinana Outer Harbour, because Kwinana is like literally just out of the Perth metro area. They should have sent it to either Bunbury, Bustleton, or Geraldton up in Oakajee. They're relocating the Fremantle Harbour to Kwinana. Well, they're trying to. There's a heap of arguments to stop it. Yeah. It shouldn't be going to anywhere near the metro area. It should be going out of the metro area because insane amount of jobs, insane amount of work, all the follow-up industries like accommodation, housing, just everyday uses like white goods and all that sort of stuff. The other thing is, if you're bringing major shipping ships, like with the containers into like Perth, Fremantle, Kwinana, they've still got to get to the regional areas. So you're going to have all these trucks coming into CBDs and trying to get out again. And it's just going to cause so many problems. And that's one of the reasons why High Road in WA, Leach Highway, South Street, the main arterials in WA are so bad because you've got these major trucks on the road. They're heavy, they're slow. Now, this is going into why I hate electric vehicles. You're now going to have extremely heavy vehicles, which are not slow. Effectively, they're battering rams on the road. Now, I'm talking like little cars weighing the same as four-wheel drives, and four-wheel drives weighing the same as trucks with the acceleration of a sports car, which is absolutely stupid and dangerous. So these locations should not be in metropolitan areas. They should be pushed out. And I'm talking a good 3-4 hours away from the capital cities and shipping everything in on train lines because A, it's safer, cheaper, more efficient, and it's going to cause a hell of a lot less deaths on freeways and country roads.
On a couple of fronts. To your point, Derek, about Bustleton and the FIFO, that is working. Okay, a lot of people I know who are in the FIFO game are moving down to that neck of the woods, and it's developing really nicely because, and that's a positive thing. And quite frankly, they've got a great lifestyle down there, so why wouldn't you? As far as you talk about the ports, look, this is a state government thing, but it's also very much a, and I know that, I'm going to try to muddy the waters. As everyone knows, I'm running for mayor here in Monterey, right? But, okay, I look at the absolute destruction of Fremantle and the hands of that city council. It just angers me, right? In my eyes, the port should be turned into a tourist-focused port, and yes, remove the freight out of there. It is so beyond a freight port these days and getting the actual freight out. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I've got.
They needed Row 8. There was a reason why they built it.
Well, no, they didn't. No,
yeah, they did. Row 8 was required.
You know what they need to do? Yeah, they've done some good work there. They've expanded, Canning Highway, yada yada yada. What they need to do is take the whole freight network out of that area and turn it into a tourist town. That's what they should have done. It wouldn't have been
anywhere near as bad if they had built Row 8 back in '96.
Yeah, but okay. In '96, you had Labor, and this is a fact. Right?
No, it's both Labor and Liberals. They've both been.
I'm not bashing either one specifically from the point of view of as much as I don't like the Labor Party, because I don't, and I'm never going to pretend that I like socialism. But the Labor Party literally paid professional protesters to camp out there, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, through get-ups and all these other sort of organisations. To me, that's not democracy. To me, that's absolutely disgusting. You're not looking after your people. Edge Radio Australia, Malloy with you. I was going to say special guests, but they're not guests at all. Let's face it, they're part of the furniture here. Derek Whittaker to my left. Mate, you've got some
we're both to your left, right?
Left. No, you're further left, mate. You are. You've got the purple.
Well, I'm the Greens and he's Liberals.
Oh dear.
Are you Labor or One Nation? What are you? Which one are you?
He's a Liberal Democrat.
Please just leave me alone. All right, now we're in the last segment of the show, and we've got something exciting, very exciting, because I'm looking at this. and it's not exciting, mate.
I'm sorry. Matthew Lynn from The Telegraph has written an article called "Why Britain is on the Verge of a Cataclysmic Financial Crisis."
They have been stumbling like that for the last 2 centuries.
Is this written by ChatGPT?
Possibly.
Well, he's talking about the bond markets. He says they're crashing around the world, and as they did in a run up to the crash of 1987.
No, I can understand. The movies have been really bad. I haven't enjoyed a Bond movie since.
Okay, just so the people know, bonds are like government IOUs. The government borrows money in the form of a bond, and you get interest rates, earnings. And generally, returns are very, very low.
Yeah, the 87 crash was pretty huge.
Yeah. So he said debts have been ramped up. Equity markets are overstretched, which is stock markets basically. Company values stretched to the point of breaking in many cases. And he says, I'm quoting here, seemingly indestructible bull market is coming to an end. It's not hard to see how that could end in a gale of destruction blowing through the markets. Came to pass, a market crash on the scale of 1987 would prove a cataclysmic political and economic event. Now, you get these doom and gloom articles a lot, okay? But it's interesting that the yields of bonds are really, really high at the moment. What's interesting, I wasn't aware of this, but Austria sent out many years ago a 100-year bond and then reissued it in 2020.
Right.
And you could get back then the coupon of just 0.85% per annum. Investors have to wait a whole century to get their money back. And for all that risk patience, they get less than 1% return.
Why? Why?
I know. And that's what he asked the article. I mean, why would you do that? Lock away money for over 100 years. Some people did. But a lot of these...
Can you imagine the amount of inflation over that time period?
Yeah, a lot of the interest on these bonds is going up. And, of course, it has an inverse relationship. When interest rates go up, prices go down. That's interesting for banks who bought them at higher prices, and now they've got them on the books. If they want to dump them and get rid of them,
gotcha.
They would have to sell them at a loss. So it's a really stuck position to be in for those who want to offload them and bought them at a higher price some years ago, which is why a lot of these banks in the US crashed recently.
Yeah.
3 of them, they were over leveraged in one asset class. So watch that space, because you might think, well, what's that got to do with finance? That just sounds so boring. You've got to understand the big institutions are invested in these things. The big banks are invested in bonds. Yeah. And it's also governments that have an interest in bonds because they directly affect their lines there in terms of what's owed to them and what they owe, what the governments own. So that's a really interesting one to watch in that space.
Okay, so Derek, let's say this article is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the bond market goes to absolute shit, and the UK totally falls over.
Mm-hmm.
Will that be an isolated thing to the UK, or will that go global?
I think if bonds are out of control around the globe, then you've got a big problem globally. I've been expecting a big market crash to occur for quite some time now.
Yeah,
it's always a question of when, and I'm just going warning out there. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, yeah. Look, it's only been 15 years since the last one, right? Okay, which in the scheme of things,
2020 we had one,
yeah.
a little one,
little one. Yeah, but that had to do with other factors.
That was a black swan event.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, if we look at back, we got 87 to 2008. Okay, so
there was a .com bubble, and then we had the market crash at GFC in 2007, 2008.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
Oh, jeez! Tell you what,
what's
it's
happening?
Almost like they're playing with other people's money.
Historically, what we're
they're
seeing,
not playing. They're gambling with other people's money with no risk, because the taxpayers will bail them all out.
Well, what's the interesting thing about this is that we've seen more governments print more money in this space and time frame than ever before. And what we're noticing too, if you historically chart out where market crashes actually occur, they're getting more and more frequent as we move through time. And that's really interesting, because I look at that and go, people think that's doom and gloom. I actually go, no, there's opportunity there. Because wealth transitions happen, or transfers of wealth happen when those crashes occur.
Is the money still in the market? It's just not in the same position.
Yeah. So it's positioning oneself in that market to receive it is the thing, and that's where financial education comes real handy.
Yeah, it does.
Talking of financial education, bluskyfactory.com.au.
Oh.
Yep. So if you do want to get yourself financial education, our star of the show, Derek, is a great educator. I've done two or three of your classes.
You've done 2, I think, to memory. Yeah,
Didn't we also do the promo class?
2 courses. Yeah, you've done
2 courses.
You've
In
done
the
the
promo,
training
the
one.
one
and-
day, like the 1 hour and a half one, the $47.
Oh yeah.
Are we
yeah,
allowed
do
to say
that.
how much they are?
That's fine.
Yeah. So how much are they?
The one you're referring to.
The one you recorded here.
Yeah, it's 47.
You've got the
Building the Wealth Foundation.
Building Wealth Foundation, and then the advanced options trading course.
Yeah.
So
Right. Well, I've done one, and I'll tell you right now. Actually, no, I've done 2. They've been massively, massively good for me. Really have been. So I appreciate that very much. And one thing I liked about it wasn't all pie in the sky stuff. It was actually practical applications, things that I can understand and I can actually relate to my own financial life. So I would strongly recommend it. Not doing the old commercial here, just quite frankly, got a friend here who's set me on the straight and narrow, and really appreciate it.
And the cool thing is, because Derek's awesome, if you do sign up to his course, we get a kickback out the studio, which helps pay for the bills.
Didn't even know that. There
Yes.
you go.
See, this is
Nice.
why I communicate with people.
You don't communicate with me.
No, I don't know.
But there we go. That is the end of the show, everyone. Thank you very much for being part of it. Those online and those who will listen later, of course, we'll have the replay on Sunday from 5 p.m. Have a wonderful, what is it? It's Monday, right?
Yeah.
Have a wonderful week.
And for everyone who's been tuning in and typing messages and stuff like that, thanks very much. Keep doing it because it really brings another element to the show.
Massively appreciate it.
Do appreciate it. Josh, Darren, Damien, Glenn, Mark, Travis, me. No.
Oh, it's Edge Radio Australia, the greater wealth.